All right, we just finished episodes 9 and 10 of The Last Dance, which Jerry Reinsdorf ended early, just like the Bulls dynasty. I'm Dan Woike, national NBA writer for the LA Times, joined by Brad Turner, Lakers Clippers writer, and TV editor Matt Brennan. Guys, what a fun 5 weeks. What'd you guys think of the end?
Well, we knew the end. We knew that was the end of it, but I was telling Matt earlier, I never knew that Jerry Reinsdorf, the owner of the Bulls, asked Phil to come back. That was news to me. And because of that, that caught me off guard more than anything else.
Yeah, that's jarring. I mean, as a Chicagoan, I think knowing that we could have seen another year of Michael Jordan, still closer to prime Michael Jordan. I mean, I joked about this in the 45 things that I observed is like maybe the Wizards will be in the sequel, but to me, I would have loved to have seen his last basketball played in Chicago with that iconic red and black. Not getting that made me kind of pissed off at Jerry Reinsdorf and Jerry Krause today. Matt, what did you kind of think of the ending of this 5-week event?
I think what I have learned in the last couple of weeks is that the structure of the docuseries, which I originally thought was very clever, started to become a little bit hairy towards the end while they had to slim down how much they showed you from the 97-98 season compared to how much they show you from the earlier years. Because at the beginning of the docuseries, they toggle back and forth pretty effectively. And as you get toward the end, they'll give you one game from 97-98 and then 6 months from some earlier period. And it does make me think that it actually would have been smart if they had figured out a way to include Jordan's post-Bulls career and life as a little bit more of a coda. I'm not saying they should have done more episodes because, in fact, I think 10 was maybe too many. But if they had figured out a way to extend the story and kind of explain the afterlife. Because I think that what the docuseries gets at is that basketball in the era of Jordan became such a big deal that you could have an afterlife in entertainment or as a player, as a coach, in a way that you couldn't in previous years, in a way that I think would have been interesting to explore.
Yeah, or as a pro wrestler, apparently. I think before we get to that stuff, I thought there were two stories, one that I knew, one that I didn't know, again, that I thought were really well told. Even if it was a little jammed in, I thought the story of Steve Kerr and Steve Kerr's father, Malcolm, specifically is a story that I know, but to see Steve kind of tell it, to see Steve's mother sort of relive it, I thought was very poignant. And watching this documentary, it should remind people that this was, by the way, this was not a Chicago Bulls documentary. This was a Michael Jordan documentary. I think that's super clear. But he had a ton of help, and along the way, a ton of people made huge shots. Steve Kerr being one of them, John Paxson being one of them, Luke Longley being one of them, Bill Wennington. I mean, a lot of Jordan key moments, the ball ends up in somebody else's hands and kind of the guys have running a right play. So let's chill on the LeBron passes at the end of game narrative for a little while. I think we can be reminded that Michael did it too. But BT, to me, and you know this, you love these guys, the relationship of Jordan and his security guards. Yes. I thought it's a thing that is very real in this league. Maybe you can speak a little bit to why those relationships are so close for these stars.
Because they're with them all the time, and they're trying to shelter them if they can. They're trying to keep them out of trouble. For example, Charles Barkley finally got a security guy. Why? Because they didn't want Charles Barkley throwing someone through a glass window again, spitting on someone again. If he actually did that, they just want to make sure they keep these guys safe, and out of harm's way, and that they keep the fans aware of. If you see some giant dude next to another giant guy, for example, Shaq has a bodyguard who's not as big as Shaq is, of course, but if you see Jerome with Shaq, you keep thinking, maybe I don't want to mess with Shaquille, who's a very nice guy. In the case of Michael, man, the idea that he had these guys next to him, and to see how moving it was to be around those guys, that he just thought so much of them, especially Gus, that was a moment that I think it showed a soft side of Michael that we didn't see as the basketball player.
I tweeted it. It's like the duality of man as you go from that scene of him giving the game ball to Gus, his friend who's ravaged with cancer, to him cursing out Larry Bird in the hallway, like in a scene. Like just one quick cut, like Larry Bird, his friend, just be like, all right, time for you to golf because I just beat you. One thing that I think I learned about Michael Jordan as a whole through this is I didn't think I realized how funny he was. And funny sometimes in kind of a mean way, but funny. Like watching Scott Burrell catch some very unnecessary strays particularly before game 5, telling Scott Burrell, like, who they're still friends, by the way, telling Scott Burrell, like, Scott, I'm never going to see you again. If I do, I'm going to whip your ass. Very funny stuff, and kind of getting a sense. I think that was one of the things I think ultimately sort of the found footage gave us was Jordan's sort of dry sense of humor, in addition to obviously being kind of a tyrant and being a bully, but seeing how quick-witted he could be. I don't know, Matt, what did you think of that Jordan as sort of a compelling TV character in this series?
I mean, I think that he comes across as hugely charismatic in slightly the same rehearsed way that a talk show host does.
Okay.
Like, I don't think that it showed you some side of him that you've never seen before. What it did was it added some shades to the sides that you've already seen.
Lots of shade.
Right. And I think that the humor is one of them. I think that it also does a good job, though, and like the found footage to me is key because it helps fill in the sort of blank spaces of all the supporting characters in Michael's trajectory. Like, Larry Bird is not a major figure in this docuseries, but like the couple of times that he shows up in the found footage and talks to Michael, like I want like a whole GIF series of just like Larry Bird grimacing at like that Michael said to him.
As we wrap this up, guys, first of all, thanks for doing this every week. It's been so much fun talking about this. As a Chicago person, as a Michael Jordan person, wearing my one Michael Jordan jersey I have that still fits from the Olympics, originally from 1992, guys, and that means it was gigantic when I was 11 and had it. I think, to me, the thing that I hope that I take out of this, in addition to just it being really fun, was that, and Matt, I think you hit this perfectly in the first week. It was so cool to do this with everybody. And by everybody, I mean, I'm talking about sort of my Twitter feed, my basketball kind of work friends, players that we've covered, kind of all experiencing this together at a time when we're all so apart. I thought it was really powerful. And I think that's my MVP this week, is everybody else. It's very Time Magazine of me to give Person of the Year to you. But that's what it was. I loved it. Guys, what were your favorite moments from these last 2 episodes?
Well, the end, of course, Conway Electra coming back. Thank you, Conway Electra. And if anyone has a phone number, please pass it along.
I got to give it to ESPN, who recognized a situation in which this would be the kind of thing that sports fans would respond to in a moment where there are no live sports, and moved it up from June to now and created this sort of like mini bubble of everyone kind of talking about Jordan and the Bulls like they would have talked about the NBA playoffs. And I have to give them credit for some programming savvy on that, as well as making a really enjoyable docuseries. As I said in the first week, I'm not a diehard basketball fan, and I enjoyed every minute of The Last Dance.
Seeing and hearing people talk about Jordan over the last 5 or 6 years covering the NBA, for so many people, Jordan was a YouTube highlight, or even for more, a logo on a pair of sneakers. And I do think, while not a perfect representation, I do think we saw a much more three-dimensional portrait of this person. Some of the warts, tons of pettiness, right? I mean, as many sort of invented rivalries as you could have. But I think by Jordan telling his story, we got a more well-rounded sense of who he was. And I think a generation of basketball fans got a better idea of who he was. And ultimately, if you're a documentary, I mean, that's your subject. You've succeeded. Like you've presented Michael Jordan, and now we all kind of can talk about it. I think, speaking on behalf of you guys, thank you so much for reading our stories, for watching the videos. If you can, subscribe to the LA Times. It's a super important time, and we need your support. But thanks for going on this Last Dance with us. We had fun.